The local judo school was full of sounds and movement. You could hear the slap-slap of bare feet hitting the mats as people moved. There was the soft thump of bodies being thrown, but landing safely. The air had a little bit of the smell of sweat, but nobody minded. It was normal here. This was a place where students learned respect and discipline. Here, every bow before a fight meant something. For Steven Seagal, who was 19 years old and very focused, this dojo, that's what you call a place for martial arts, was her special place. She had been training here for 3 months, all while also going to her nearby college. Even though she had the same last name as her father, a name many people knew, she never bragged about it. She wanted people to know her for her own skill, not because of her family. But today, her special place was going to be tested. The afternoon sparring, practice fighting session had been going as normal. Students were pairing up, bowing, and practicing throws. Everything was fine, until a man named Rico Lockjaw Varela walked in. Rico was a black belt, which meant he was very experienced. He was strong and fast, but he was also known for being arrogant. He liked to test new students by going much harder than he needed to. He would pretend he was helping them improve, but really he just wanted to show he was stronger. A lot of people didn't like how Rico acted, but very few had the courage to stand up to him. When Ayam saw Rico, she didn't think too much about it. She bowed to him when they were paired up, expecting a normal, respectful match. But the moment they began, she could tell his goal wasn't about practicing skills. He wanted to dominate. Rico didn't work with her movements or give her a chance to try techniques. Instead, he just used his strength to hold her and stop her from doing anything. He smirked when she struggled to break his grip. "You're strong for a little thing," Rico said in a low voice, so only Ayam could hear. "Let's see how long you last." Before Ayam could react, Rico suddenly moved behind her. His arms wrapped around her neck in a rear naked choke. But this wasn't the safe, careful choke you use in practice. This was tight, mean, and meant to scare her. His forearm pressed hard under her chin, squeezing so she couldn't breathe. Ayam tapped his arm once, then twice, the universal sign that says, "Let go, I give up." But Rico didn't let go. The other students didn't notice anything was wrong. They thought it was just part of the sparring. The instructor, Sensei Moriyama, was on the other side of the mat showing another pair how to do a throw. Nobody realized what was happening. Nobody, except Ayam, who could feel her pulse pounding in her ears. Her hands clawed at Rico's arm, but he only squeezed tighter. "What's wrong?" Rico whispered. "Can't handle a little pressure?" Her vision blurred. Her chest hurt from not getting air. She felt anger rising, but also fear. This wasn't training anymore. This was humiliation. Then Ayam's blurry eyes saw movement near the entrance of the dojo. The door had opened. A tall man stepped inside. He wore black slacks and a plain jacket. His hair was slicked back. His face was calm, but you couldn't read his thoughts. He stood still for a moment, looking around. He saw the mats, the students, and Rico choking his daughter. This man was Steven Seagal. Steven had come without calling first. He wanted to surprise Ayam and watch her train. He wasn't expecting trouble. But the moment he looked at her, he understood everything. He saw the tension in Ayam's body. He saw Rico's cruel smirk. He saw that Ayam had already tapped, but Rico was still holding her. Something inside Steven went cold. He didn't run forward. He didn't have to. He walked with slow, certain steps, the kind that made people notice. By the time he reached the mat, Sensei Moriyama had just turned toward them, frowning. "Hey!" Steven's voice rang out. It was calm and low, but it had a sharpness that made everyone stop and listen. "Let her go." Rico turned his head, annoyed. "Relax, old man. We're just training." Steven's voice dropped even lower, like steel scraping on stone. "Let her go." There was something in his tone that made the hair on your neck stand up. Rico hesitated, then loosened his grip. Ayam stumbled forward, coughing and rubbing her neck. Steven's eyes never left Rico. "Step away from her," Steven said. He didn't raise his voice, but it filled the room anyway. Rico smirked again, thinking Steven was weak because he was calm. "You got a problem? This is judo. If she can't handle it, maybe she shouldn't be here." Steven tilted his head slightly, studying Rico. You think choking someone after they tap is judo? That's not discipline. That's not training. That's you hiding your insecurity behind a belt. Some students shifted uncomfortably. The air in the dojo felt heavier. Rico straightened his posture, trying to take control of the situation. Listen, I don't know who you think you are. You don't need to know, Steven interrupted, stepping closer. His presence felt heavy, like gravity was stronger around him. All you need to know is that you put your hands on my daughter. Rico paused. Your daughter. He glanced at Iam, then back at Steven. You're Steven Seagal. Yes, Iam said, her voice still rough from the choke. She wasn't bragging. She was just telling the truth. Recognition flashed in Rico's eyes, but his pride kept him from backing down. Well, martial arts or not, this is my dojo, Rico said. If you want to make an issue of it, we can step on the mat. Steven looked at him for a long moment. Are you sure you want that? Rico grinned. I don't back down from anyone. Steven nodded slowly. Good. Because I don't teach lessons with words. The air in the dojo felt tight now, like a string pulled too far. Students moved back, making an unspoken circle around the two men. Sensei Moriyama looked unsure. He wanted to stop it, but he also knew Steven's reputation. In the end, he decided to watch. Steven took off his jacket, folded it neatly, and placed it aside. He stepped onto the mat, rolling his shoulders like a man getting ready to lift something heavy. Iam moved to the side. She kept one hand on her sore neck and her eyes locked on her father. Rico cracked his knuckles. He was already imagining how it would feel to beat Steven Seagal in front of everyone. But Steven wasn't here to spar. He was here to teach Rico exactly how far out of his depth he was. Some storms you just don't walk into, and Rico was about to learn that. The air inside the dojo was thick with anticipation. Even experienced martial artists were shifting on their feet. Students whispered to each other, their eyes bouncing between Rico and Steven. Steven stepped onto the mat without hurrying. His weight was balanced perfectly. His gaze locked on Rico like a hawk watching prey. Every step he took made the room feel smaller. Rico rolled his neck and bounced on his feet. All right, old man. Let's see if your movie moves in real life. Iam's jaw tightened. She had seen her father fight for real. She knew the difference between a true fighter and a bully. Rico was about to find out. He moved first, lunging forward, trying to grab Steven's collar to pull him into a throw. He was fast, aggressive, but it didn't work. Steven didn't move the way Rico expected. Steven didn't step back. He didn't run away. He just moved his weight to one side. Because of that, Rico's pull went into empty space. Rico stumbled forward a step. He didn't understand how Steven had done that so easily. That's your first mistake, Steven said. His voice was calm, like he was giving a class. You are fighting the person you think I am, not the person standing here right now. Rico made an angry sound. He rushed at Steven again. This time, he tried to kick Steven's foot from under him. Steven simply stepped over the kick, like he was avoiding a small puddle of water. His hands were still down and loose, not in a tight fighting pose. Suddenly, Steven's right hand shot up fast. He caught Rico's wrist in midair. His left hand grabbed Rico's elbow. Steven twisted Rico's arm just a little, not enough to hurt badly, but enough to make Rico feel he could be hurt if Steven wanted. It was quick, neat, and controlled. Rico realized, too late, that Steven could have broken his arm at that moment. But Steven let go right away. That's your second mistake, Steven said, stepping back. You think power means being cruel. But real martial artists don't hurt people just because they can. The people watching were quiet now. At first, they were excited to see the fight. Now, they were watching with surprise and respect. Even Sensei Moriyama, who had almost stepped in earlier, now stood with his arms crossed, slowly nodding. But Rico wasn't ready to give up. He felt hot embarrassment in his chest. This was his dojo, his training place. He cared about his reputation. And now everyone was seeing him lose. You think you can lecture me? Rico spat. Then he charged forward, this time using only raw strength and no real skill. Steven simply turned to the side. He guided Rico past him with a light touch. Then Steven spun, hit Rico's wrist to throw him off balance, and placed his palm gently but firmly on Rico's chest. It wasn't a punch. It wasn't even meant to hurt. But Rico flew backward and landed hard on the mat. The sound was so loud it echoed in the room. Gasps came from the students. Steven didn't chase after him. He just stood there, one hand behind his back, waiting for Rico to get up. "You have strength," Steven said. "But strength without discipline is just a dangerous weapon you can't control. And if you use it on the wrong person." Rico got up, red in the face and breathing heavily. "What? You're going to break me?" he asked. Steven's eyes didn't even blink. "No," he said. "You're going to break yourself." Rico made a loud roar and came in again. He pretended to punch with his left, then threw a right hook like a street fighter. Steven caught his arm in the air, turned his body, and guided Rico down with a smooth, almost casual move. Rico's own strength made him drop to his knees, and Steven twisted his arm behind him. Steven leaned down and whispered so only Rico could hear. "That choke you put on my daughter, that was your line. You crossed it. Now you're standing on the edge of a cliff, and I'm the one holding you by the collar." Rico tried to pull free, but he couldn't move at all. Steven's grip was strong, but not wasted, just enough to show he had total control. "Tap," Steven said. "I'm not," Rico began to say. But Steven adjusted the hold just a tiny bit, and pain shot through Rico's shoulder. Rico slapped the mat once, then twice. Steven let go instantly and stepped back. "That's how respect works," he said, his voice calm but sharp. "When someone taps, you let go. You don't laugh. You don't squeeze harder. You respect the tap. Because without that," he pointed to the dojo, the mats, and the students, "this isn't martial arts. It's just cruelty to wear a uniform." The whole room was silent. You could even hear the quiet hum of the ceiling lights. Rico sat holding his arm. His pride felt broken in front of his students. Steven turned to Ayami, his face softer now. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, her eyes shining with pride. "I'm fine, Dad." "Good." Steven looked back at Rico. "Then my work here is done." Steven picked up his jacket, put it over his shoulder, and started walking toward the door. But Rico muttered, just loud enough for Steven to hear. "Still just a washed-up movie star." Steven stopped. Slowly, he turned back. His eyes narrowed slightly. For the first time, Rico realized this might not be over. The room froze again. Steven began walking toward Rico, slow, steady steps. Every pair of eyes followed him, like even the walls were watching. Rico shifted nervously. He felt that whatever was about to happen was much bigger than a normal fight. Steven stopped right in front of him. "You think I'm a washed-up movie star?" he asked quietly. His voice wasn't loud, but it felt heavy, like a hammer about to fall. Rico tried to smirk, but it came out weak. "Just calling it how I see it." Steven's expression didn't change, but his eyes became sharp, like a sword being drawn. "Then let's stop playing," he said. Before Rico could react, Steven moved. It wasn't fancy. No big spinning kicks. No movie-style flips. Just clean, perfect martial arts. Steven stepped inside Rico's guard, trapped both of Rico's arms, and twisted his hips. Rico's body went flying over and hit the floor on his back. The air rushed out of Rico's lungs. He gasped for breath like a fish out of water. Steven didn't give him a moment to recover. He moved in and locked Rico's arm in a joint hold so tight Rico froze. "I can take this elbow apart in 2 seconds," Steven said, still calm. "No hospital in this city could fix it back the same." Rico's eyes went wide. Sweat ran down his forehead. Steven gave the arm the smallest squeeze, making Rico grunt in pain. "You put my daughter in a choke for fun," Steven said. "You embarrassed her in front of her friends. You thought that made you strong. But strength is not about hurting the weak. It's about protecting them." Rico swallowed hard. "All right, I get it," he said. "No," Steven growled. "You feel it. That's the difference. And you're going to remember this feeling every single time you think about putting your hands on someone smaller than you." Steven let go of the lock, but stayed close. He grabbed Rico by the front of his uniform and pulled him up suddenly. Rico had to stumble to keep his balance. Steven leaned so close Rico could see the sharp focus in his eyes. "If I ever hear about you hurting another student," Steven whispered, "I won't teach you a lesson. I'll end your career." Rico couldn't say anything. He just nodded. His earlier pride was gone. Steven let go and looked at the students. "Martial arts is not a game," he said. "It's not for showing off. It's not to prove you're the toughest in the room. If you can't control yourself, you don't belong here." He looked at each student, and none of them dared look away. Ayam stepped forward, her head high. "Thank you, Dad," she said softly. Steven's face softened just for her. "You don't need me to fight your battles," he said. "But you'll never fight them alone." They walked toward the door together. The students moved out of the way, some bowing with respect, others just staring at the man who had shown them what real strength looked like in less than 10 minutes. At the door, Steven stopped and looked back at Rico. "And for the record," he said with a small smile, "those movie moves you hate so much, I learned them long before the cameras ever rolled." He closed the door behind him. The dojo was silent. Rico stood there holding his sore arm. Steven's words echoed louder than any hit he had taken. And Rico knew he would never forget this day. Because sometimes the worst hits are not the ones that hurt your body. They're the ones that hurt your pride. Did you enjoy the story? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below. If you had a great time, don't forget to hit subscribe and ring the bell so you're always in the loop for the next adventure. Thanks for joining me, and as always, stay curious, stay brave, and keep exploring.